my own boxing community. And we are live right now. I wanted to talk about well, first of all, let me just say I've been seeing a lot of videos with people criticizing Jaron Boots Ennis and his performance with Karen. Uh, I'm trying to remember how you pronounce his last name. Um, Rodolfo Rivera, salute. I'm trying to I'm trying to I'm trying to remember this guy's last name, but it's uh Karen. I'm trying. How you pronounce this guy's name? Karen Kachu. I don't know. Karen Chakazudia or something like that. Yeah, like Chakazadian. Anyway, I think it's pronounced Karen. I think with an American accent, everybody is saying Karen, but I believe the pronunciation of Karen's name is Quran, something like that. But anyway, there's been a lot of criticism. Salute Rodolfo too. Thanks for stopping by. There's been a lot of criticism with Boots Ennis in his performance, and what I noticed, some things that I noticed. I noticed they criticized Boots' defense. They said he gets hit too much. They said his stance was a little too wide. He's loading up on a lot of his shots. He's staying in the pocket for too long. Right? So, I mean, there's a whole lot of criticism towards Boots Ennis. And I don't know about a lot of you other guys out there, but I'm one of the ones who I don't want to criticize Boots Ennis. I want to give praise to Karen, for giving Boots a tough fight. Period. I noticed that there's a lot of other 47s out there, right? There's like Brian Norman and Schofield, like all these fans of these guys talking about what they would do to Boots. But I want to know what those guys would do against Karen. Because I noticed that a lot of you boxing fans, you guys want to go straight to Boots because you guys saw that Karen is a good fighter and he could possibly beat those guys that you think could beat Boots. I've seen a lot of live videos out there and I don't know, but not too many, if none. I haven't seen any uploaders out there give praise to Karen for being a good boxer. Just because you haven't seen the guy before doesn't make him a nobody. You know, when Terrence Crawford was fighting Madrimov, a lot of people was writing him off. Now, I'll be honest with you, I never heard of Madrimov. The only time I seen him was on the undercard of when he won the title. That's my first time seeing him. And that was one of those fights where I watched it, going to get me something to eat, look at it again, get up and go use the restroom. I didn't really pay no attention to it, but I did watch it. Then he was announced to fight Terrence Crawford. And I wasn't the one believing that he was one of the best at 54. And I still don't think Madrimov is the best at 54. But a lot of people wrote him off. And instead, when he gave Crawford a good fight, instead of giving Madrimov his credit, they just criticized Terrence Crawford. And I'm starting to realize a lot of boxing fans aren't used to competitive boxing fights. right? You guys are used to cherry picks. Your favorite fighter fighting a cherry pick, steamrolling the guy, and then when there's a top fighter that most fans want him to see, you guys are more in tune with the idea of your favorite fighter fighting this guy, but not actually fighting him. That's what I'm starting to notice with these boxing fans today. You guys, I just realized you guys aren't used to competitive fights. So when you don't know who the guy is, oh, the guy's just a bum. I go back to Claggett versus Teofimo Lopez. If you watch Claggett, he fights one way. He's very aggressive. He's super durable. He has a pretty good chin. And he has a great output throwing punches. Right? He gets in there. He gives Teofimo Lopez a very hard fight. Harder than when he fought Josh Taylor. All right? Now, you may say, "Oh, well, he didn't step up to it, you know, he only steps up in competition when it depends on the opponent." No. I don't believe that. What I believe is Claggett's style was just all wrong for Teofimo Lopez, and it ended up being a good fight. And if you notice, you haven't seen any of the 140 pounders for a tune-up, for a stay busy fight, for a quick payday. You haven't seen any of these guys call out Claggett, because they all watched that fight against Teofimo Lopez and said, yeah, this is a high-risk, low-reward fight. We're going to pass on him. And that's probably what's going to happen with Karen. Because I could tell you right now, Karen would be a problem for Schofield, for Brian Norman, for Devin Haney if he moved up to 47, for Ryan Garcia if he moved up to 47. He would be a problem for these guys. Because, guys, Boots got fast hands. He has good power. He has good footwork. And Karen matched all of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because Karen fought smart, got clipped, took a knee, regrouped, and made it a 12-round battle. That's what boxing is about. You guys are more concerned with purse bids and A side and B side that you guys can't even recognize a good fight when it's right in front of your face. And like I said, I'm starting to believe that you guys just aren't good. I mean, not used to competitive boxing fights. That's just what it is. That's what I see. In the past, we had top contenders fighting against other top contenders. Champions fighting against top contenders. Champions fighting against the number one guy, fighting against the number two guy, fighting against the number three guy. And you had competitive fights. Some of those fights ended quick. The top guy was just better than the other top guy, but the other top guy who lost, it wasn't the end of the world. He came back and did good things. Because it wasn't the end of the world taking a loss, one loss, two losses, three losses. It wasn't the end of the world like it is now. Floyd Mayweather got all you guys so afraid to lose the O that you don't even want to fight top opposition. I heard a guy tell me, well, it doesn't matter. Tank Davis is getting paid. Why is everyone criticizing him? He's just there to feed his... I don't care about him getting paid. I don't care about what they get. A real boxing fan shouldn't care what these boxers get. They're going to get paid, guys. Whether you like it or not, they're getting paid. And they're getting paid handsomely. And they're getting paid more than the past fighters who fought way better competition. So, payday is not my concern. I want to see good fights. And we're not seeing that right now. We're not seeing that. But when you get a good fight, like Boots and Karen, you criticize it. I mean, instead of watching the fight and saying, oh man, this was a good competitive fight. By the way, Boots won by unanimous decision. Okay? Boots won by unanimous decision. But it was a competitive fight. And the first thing you guys do is just go and criticize Boots, and this guy could beat him, and that guy could beat him, and if it was this guy, and if it was that guy. It wasn't those guys. Because a lot of guys don't want to fight Boots now. If they want to fight her now based on the Karen fight, hey, it is what it is. But it's not going to be a walk in the park. Because Karen is going to learn from this fight, and Boots is going to learn from this fight. And if this was back in the days, Karen and Boots probably would fight 3 or 4 more times. Or at least 2 more times. If it was in the 90s, maybe 1 more time, 2 more times. 80s, 1 more time, 2 more times. In the 40s and 50s, they would have fought 3 or 4 more times, right? In the 30s. And boxing fans would have been fine with it. Because it's all about the competitiveness of the sport. So I'm just trying to figure out why everyone is clowning Boots. Now, with that being said, he's supposed to be going up to 54. And now we're going to see how good Boots can do with 54. I do believe that he's a big 47. I do believe he could carry 54 pretty comfortably. I do believe that when he fights if he ever fights Virgil Ortiz or I forgot the other guy's name. No, I forgot his name. Anyway, a lot of these guys are all former 47s. So it'd be an even playing field in terms of weight, in terms of size. Boots is a big boy, and I think he could carry 54. So hopefully, he gets a couple of fights in there, get used to the weight, right? Get used to the weight, get acclimated. I can't think of the dang word. He gets used to the weight comfortably, get some fights in, get some rounds in. I don't want Boots to go into 54 and they give him some easy touch-ups per se. Give him some competition. Let him get some rounds in. You don't want to jump up in weight and get some easy tune-ups that only last 3 or 4 rounds. And then you fight the top opposition and you don't know what to do when it gets past 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds, right? So you want to go into the higher weight class and get some rounds in, because I think it's very important to get the rounds in when you move up in weight. And I think Boots could do it. Listen, Virgil Ortiz, I don't know if it was the last fight or the fight before the last fight. He had a hard fight, and I don't remember people criticizing Virgil Ortiz like they did Boots. Virgil Ortiz got put on the canvas a couple of times, and he still won the fight. So Boots could definitely go up there and possibly beat Virgil Ortiz, but that remains to be seen. I don't think that the Crawford fight is going to ever happen because, for one, Crawford is looking for a payday that makes more sense. And at this stage in his career and at his age, it's going to be almost 38, I believe, or 37, 38. I don't see him fighting Boots. And I think in this generation of fighters, they're not going to follow in the footsteps of the past fighters who kept on fighting and ended their career on a bad note. I think in this generation, boxers have learned not to keep going. And not only that, boxers make more money now than they do. So they wouldn't have to continue to keep fighting. And I'm talking about the big names. I'm not talking about the journeymans and the contenders. I'm talking about the big names. That's what I'm talking about. That was yeah, I heard way more hate towards Boots than Virgil. Yeah, and it's kind of weird to me because, in my opinion, Virgil struggled harder. And if I remember correctly, that guy wasn't. Karen was all over the place on Boots, giving him angles and the left hook that was constantly landing, and he was to the left and he's to the right and he's behind him. And good footwork and fighting really close on the inside. I don't remember that guy fighting anywhere near like that against Virgil Ortiz. I got to go back and watch it. But Karen is a good fighter. I stress this over and over again. I mean, I'm going to keep saying it. When you're active and when you're fighting more, the probability of you losing is higher. The probability of you getting into a hard fight that you never crossed your mind thought it was going to be is higher. That's why I say you got to stay active. Fighters today, they don't want to stay active because they know the probabilities of them losing is higher. The less fights you have, the lower the probability of you losing. It's simple math. Look at, in my last video, I spoke about it. I said boxers need to do what a prospect in Abdullah Mason is doing. He's super busy. He fought, I believe, 6 times this year. On the fight night, he gets dropped twice against a guy who many don't know. He's a power puncher that just he's a lower ranked fighter who happens to have power. They're all over the boxing world. They're in boxing gyms. They're all over the world. They're in the amateurs. There's punchers in every gym. They just don't have certain other tools to get them to the higher level, but there's punchers in all boxing gyms. The guy who Abdullah Mason fought happened to be one of them. Clipped him twice, put him on his butt twice. Abdullah Mason comes back in the second round, shows that he has dog in him, that he's resilient, stops him with a body shot. How many prospects are going to fight that guy with the funky haircut now? And that haircut was funky. What a funny haircut. How many prospects are going to fight the guy that Abdullah Mason fought? Not too many. Because it is a risky fight. But the more you fight, the probability of you losing is higher. The probability of you getting into an all-out war is higher. And that's why I said, fighters got to stay active. It keeps you sharp. But when you're a champion and you're a quote-unquote, well, let me say not champion, let me say belt holder in this generation. When you're a quote-unquote face of boxing, Charles D. Salute. When you're a quote-unquote face of boxing, you can't keep fighting easy touch-ups. At some point, you got to step up and comp now. Because if you supposedly face a boxing and the biggest pay-per-view star, you got to start stepping up a competition. You can't just keep 86 boxing salute, Charles D. salute. You got to step up in competition at some point. And I do believe that Boots is going to do that. I believe that Abdullah Mason wants, listen, the way Abdullah Mason is going, he's going to be one of those guys that's not going to give you any issues with negotiations and purse bids and all that crap. Who's ever in line, who's ever the belt holder, who's ever the number one guy, I believe Abdullah Mason is going to be one of those throwbacks that's going to be ready to throw down. And he's not going to give you the runaround. He's not going to tell you, I got a hand injury, or I got to see if this fight makes sense and all this nonsense. I believe that Abdullah Mason is going to be one of those guys that's going to want to fight everybody. And I think Boots is that same way. When Boots go up to 54, it's going to be a lot of guys that's going to be trying to duck him and dodge him. Now, let me tell you something. As good as Karen looked against him, and a lot of guys are saying, oh, a lot of boxers die. I would have did this. If that was me, I would have did that. I could have did this. If this was that person, if that was that person. A lot of guys ain't going to be trying to just jump in with Boots. I'm going to tell you that right now. Just like a lot of guys at 47 ain't trying to jump in there with Karen. Because that is a low risk, a high risk, low reward fight. And that's the truth. Him and his brothers are solid. Yeah, that's a fact. As much as Boots get hit, Ortiz going to hurt him. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And like I said earlier, yeah, Ortiz probably could hurt Boots. And you are 100% correct. But Ortiz could get hurt too, the way he was falling over the place in that one fight, right? Got dropped twice. We tend to forget about Ortiz getting put on his butt. We tend to forget if Ortiz had a little illness or whatever with the weight issue or whatever was going on with him. We tend to forget all of that, right? We got to see what Boots is going to be like when now he's making weight comfortably. He not worried about losing weight. We got to see if he going to be stronger. I want to see because it's going to be a good fight with Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz is a good fight for anybody. I think the guy's talented. I think he's really good. He has good power. I wish him and Stanley Ennis and all them would have stayed at 47 because it would have made 47 more interesting, while 54 would have still been interesting with the guys that's there. But now 47 is at a stagnant. It's not as great as it used to be right now. And so now that's 54. Now that these guys are at 54, what are they going to do? Are these guys going to mix it up? The guy who just beat Costa Tszyu, Tim Tszyu. The guy who just beat Tim Tszyu, I say Costa Tszyu. The guy who just beat Tim Tszyu. How many fighters are going to just jump in there and fight this guy at 54? How many guys are just going to jump in there with Madrimov, who gave Terrence Crawford a good fight? See, now that the level of competition is at almost an even playing field, how many of these guys are really going to start stepping it up in this generation? Because if this one is in the 80s, these guys would have all been recycling and fighting each other, and we wouldn't have to worry about a stupid triangle theory. We would have saw who could beat who and who could beat who, and this style could beat that style, but he can't beat that style. He's a big 54 and healthy. Yeah, he is. Yeah, both of them is. Ortiz and Boots. So the 54 right now, 54 is stacked with talent. But it's not the best division until we see these guys mix it up. Once these guys all start mixing it up, then we can say, okay, right now that's the best division right now. Because right now, like for instance, the lightweight division, okay? I don't know what's going on with the lightweight division. It's so much talent down there. And these guys aren't fighting each other. So I don't want, it's not the best division. I don't know because no one's fighting each other. I don't want 54 to be that way. Because right now there isn't too many people at at 60. There isn't too many people at 47. 168 is nah, it's whatever with 168. We got an undisputed champion at 175. The cruiserweight division is whatever. Heavyweight division is pretty good. We know the lower, I don't even count the lower weight division. It's always competition in the lower weight division. And that's for us diehard boxing fans. The Bam Bams and the Anuis and all them. Right? That's for the diehards. We know that there's great competition in bantamweight, in flyweight, in junior featherweight. It's always stacked with competition down there. So I'm not even talking about them. But I'm talking about the bigger boys. These dudes got to fight each other. They got to fight each other. Zoo didn't expect that. Nah, he didn't. Nah, he didn't expect that, Charles. Hey, he didn't. And you know what? It could have been the amount of punishment that he took in the Fandora fight. I don't know. But like I said, I really don't want to take any credit from the other guy. So shout out to the other guy. He's a good fighter, talented fighter, and I think he's going to be trouble for a lot of the 54 guys that are quote-unquote stars. Plus, he gets stronger as the fight goes. Yeah, he does. He definitely does, you know. But, like Fandora is a problem for anybody. Fandora is going to beat Spence. I do believe... if Spence miraculously beats Fandora coming off of a beatdown in a 2-year layoff in more, because I think they're fighting sometime next year, right? So more, 2 years and some months. If he miraculously beats Fandora, we're going to get Crawford and Spence too. So that leaves possible fights with these other guys that could fight Crawford. Because for me, I know fans want to see a rematch. But for me, I want to see something else. We saw the Madrimov. Great fight. Now, I'd like to see the dude who beat Zoo fight Crawford. I'd like to see Stanionis fight Crawford or Virgil Ortiz fight Crawford. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think we need to see. Like I said, in my opinion, I think Fandora is going to beat Spence. He's never fought at 54. He took a bad beating at 47. He's been on a 2.5-year layoff. Everything is stacked against Spence. The only thing that he has going for him is Fandora is a tall guy. He's a big target. And he's not that defensively sound. But that doesn't mean Spence is just going to give him body shots and beat him and stop him. I don't know, because I don't know. It's one of those things. Is Spence going to be strong enough to beat and stop Fandora in a 2-year layoff after an accident, after taking a beat down by Crawford? Is he going to really beat and stop Fandora, but in his prime, pre-car accident, pre-Crawford, he couldn't stop Mikey Garcia? Let that sink in, folks. Like I said, if he were miraculously beat Fandora, y'all can speculate all y'all want. Because it'll be justified. And that's true. He beat Sue soundly. Fandora or the other dude? Because I believe, in my opinion, I thought Zoo was going to win that fight if it wasn't for the cut. I mean, the guy couldn't see. Let's be real. He was in there blind. And the fight was still competitive. Now, he lost, but the fight was still competitive. And he took a lot of punishment. And I don't know if he underestimated the other guy that he fought. The other guy could have just been better than him. The other guy could have just had a better style than him. I don't know what it is. But I know, in my opinion, and I'm not right, I'm just speculating. I'm definitely not right. An opinion is never facts. I thought that Fondora was going to lose to Tim Tszyu had it not been for that cut. But that's just me, you know, Kasazu is one of the greatest 140 pounders ever. And sometimes fathers in boxing who were big stars. Sometimes the son, well, most of the time, it's just big shoes to fill, and they don't be as success. They don't be as successful as their parent, their father. Also, you got to think they're never successful in an era that's weaker than their father's era. And that's something to think about. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Kasazu fought some good fighters at 140, and beat them. You know what I'm saying? He had the setback with Verno Phillips, but that's boxing. That's boxing. That's why I say, if we did a fantasy fight right now, most people would pick Kasazu to beat Verno Phillips. But at the end of the day, it takes one punch. One punch. One punch. Unless you're Paulie Malignaggi. If you're Paulie Malignaggi, you might not knock out anything. But for the sake of boxing talk, it takes one punch. And I think when it comes to talent, Boots and Karen showed us that the sport of boxing can still be competitive and give us good fights as long as these boxers start fighting each other, start giving other boxers other opportunities to make money and to fight. We can't let guys like Jake Paul take shine from boxing, from the real boxers. We can't let MMA and UFC and PFL and all these other sports and bare knuckle take away from boxing. Boxing, to me, in my opinion, besides baseball, is the greatest sport and is the greatest combat sport and is the most competitive sport and has the most talented athletes. But in order for that to happen, to showcase, these guys gotta fight each other. And I hope that Boots moves up to 54, fights, wins, loses, and continue to fight, win, lose, whatever it takes. And that's how we're going to get good fights at 54. Once all these guys start mixing it up, then we're going to see a 154-pound division like back in the days, in the Terry Norris era, in the Mike McCallum era, when the 54 division was stacked with talent. And that's what I see now. It's stacked with talent, but these guys got to fight each other. They got to fight each other. You feel me? This is the MOBC. Salute and thanks for stopping by, everybody.